Morning, everybody, or good evening, or good afternoon, or good night, wherever you happen to be at. Thanks for joining. I'll give it a couple more minutes as I get set up here. I'm doing an experiment and trying to do this on a Saturday morning with kids at home, so we'll just see how well this goes. But let me get a couple things squared away here and get set up. I would have had this done normally before starting the stream, but got a little delayed this morning, just a little delayed. I want to get my chat up on the screen and see how that looks today. We wait for a couple more viewers to pop in. All right, give me just a second here, guys and gals. Again, welcome. I'm just getting a couple things set up here to make sure it all works like it's supposed to, hopefully. Very good. Glad I got to make it for a live stream. Let's see. So I changed the CSS on the live stream this morning, or on the chat background. I want to see how well that looks. See that my background's a little wonky, but we're going to go with it today. Just leave it as is. You know what's interesting is I still get questions about the Nest integration. In fact, I had some this morning. One of the big things I have seen lately, well, not really big, but a few questions were about the SSH function, or how you run the curl commands if you're a Windows user. And so let me just pop up a little browser here, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I have a bunch of Linux servers that I can get onto and do things on. So it's not a big deal for me to do that. And so I can just get on those servers and do that. But what you can do, especially if you're running Node-RED on Hasio, is you can go to add-ons under Supervisor, and you can add in an SSH terminal and SSH. You can add this, and then if you turn it to show in sidebar right here, you can go over to the sidebar and you can actually open up an SSH terminal, this right here, and then all of those curl commands. Thanks, Katie Steele, for that compliment. It's a lot of fun to do this. I can see, you can tell I'm using a green screen behind me. I apologize today because it's wonky. I tried to set the lighting. I had to move my whole studio / home office around a little bit, and so the lighting's a little bit weird today, and I didn't get a chance to make it look as good as it has. So it is what it is. Live TV, right? Anyway, so you can go to an SSH window or SSH terminal through Home Assistant and just run the curl commands here. I obviously I didn't do a whole command, but you can. Raspy, welcome. And I'm going to pronounce these screen names as I see them. I could be completely wrong in the pronunciation, but Raspy wants to do some Node-RED stuff today, which we're going to do. Anyway, just a little side trip with the Nest stuff. It's still a big thing. You can tell how popular a product is by how much activity there is with integrations, such as the Nest integration we're doing with Home Assistant. So that's kind of fun. All right, so let's talk a little bit real quick before we get into Node-RED about Home Assistant 1.0. And let me start off by saying I don't work for Home Assistant. I am not a developer for Home Assistant. I just read the news. I just read the stuff that's out there, and I go with it there. So with that in mind, just Raspberry, exactly how you said it. Okay, good. Glad I got it right. So just keep that in mind as you go along here, that I'm not specifically knowledgeable. I don't have inside knowledge. But what I did was I did a little research, a little. I did a little research because this is probably, if you look here, this says December 13th, 2020, which is not around yet, not here yet. But that's the date of the Home Assistant Conference. Let me show you something else here. While we're just going around in squirrel mode here and jumping all over the place, let me go to Supervisor again, I think. Actually, Configuration. If you go to Configuration in Home Assistant, you're going to see this. If you're on the latest version of Home Assistant, you're going to see this Home Assistant Conference. And if you click on it, it's going to take you to the Home Assistant Conference page. And the date of the conference is December 13th. So then if you look at December 13th here, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together, and it looks like they're going to be releasing version 1.0 of Home Assistant during the conference. A lot of this is speculation, and y'all might have more inside knowledge than I do even. So, but what I did notice is that we're on 0.118 right now. And if you're in the software world, when you go from a point something to a round number or a whole number, it just turns into this this whole, like, this is official and now this is like a real product and stuff. Prior to that, it's just kind of like baby steps. So I think this mostly is a marketing thing more than anything, because if you look through some of these items that are in here, this looks quite like any other release notes. And again, this is like a template. So rc.homeassistant.io. So it's a blog post. If you look at all the other releases, you'll see that those are typically this same kind of format, but it's a lot of like hyping it up, I think. There are things on here I know that are coming in 1.0 that aren't listed. So one example is if you're following along with the grid card stuff, which Katie Steele is doing, and others are doing, right? The grid card, if you edit the grid card, and this is in my video, you can see it. If you edit the grid card and you put in like columns, colon something, or square false or whatever, if you do some editing to the YAML itself, you actually lose the ability to edit that particular card in the UI. So what they're doing in version 1.0, or the next version, the next release, is to allow you the ability to continue to use the graphical or the UI editor if you make changes to the YAML code itself. So other than that, a lot of this stuff looks like you would have things like noteworthy changes, new platforms, and things like that. So I don't really, even looking through this, like new integrations, Fire Service, Rhoda, Motion Blinds, SRP, Twinkly. That's interesting. My brother actually has twinkly lights on his Christmas tree, so he's waiting for this release to use twinkly. New platforms, and then we have some new integrations as well. One thing I do want to point out, I've seen a lot of this on the Discord for Home Assistant, and I don't work for Home Assistant, but if you jump onto the Home Assistant Discord and you look at this add-on support channel, these are for add-ons. These are not for the integrations. And so a lot of questions get asked within the add-on channel that need to go over to the Home Assistant. So from an educational standpoint, if you need help with an integration, make sure if you're on the Discord servers, and I don't know what they all are, but if you're on the Discord servers, make sure you're asking the question in the correct Discord channel, and not necessarily add-on. So if we look over here and we look at Supervisor and we look at add-ons, look at that, 118.5 is ready. And we look at the add-on store, all these things are potential things that you can ask questions about in the add-on Discord channel or add-on Discord server. If you're doing an integration, which is over here under configuration integrations, each one of these potentially has its own Discord channel or own Discord server. So make sure that you are asking questions in the right place to get the best result when you want an answer. All right, so In terms of 1.0, um, I don't see a lot going on. Again, it's not the 13th yet. There's probably going to be a lot more of an announcement coming about this. A lot of work goes into any software development. This platform, and I was reading last night about this, there's a lot of detractors and a lot of promoters to stuff in general. And, there were some detractors talking about how this is still complicated to set up and Home Assistant's complicated to use, etc. This is, I still consider this a tinkerer's playground. If Having said that, I've been running Home Assistant for a while now, couple 3 years, and I've gone from the 0 point something to or like 0.5 or 4 or whatever it is, 0.4, wherever we're at now, to 0.118, and it's made huge leaps. Short of the Google thing, which is Google's fault primarily, it's not Home Assistant. The harder you make your product access or steps to make it accessible, like the API, the harder it's going to be to integrate it. The Google Nest stuff is hard, and I hear that a lot. It is a hard thing to do because it has a lot of steps on the Google side that you have to get correct. You've got to create a device access console account. You've got to create a topic. You've got to create a subscription. You've got to get client IDs. You've got to get subscription IDs. There's a lot of stuff you have to do on the Google side before you even begin to do stuff on the Home Assistant side. In addition, because of the way the authentication works, you have to be able to access Home Assistant externally from your local network. That question came up again this morning in one of my comments. Someone's asking me, why am I getting redirected to 192, 168, blah, blah, blah. So with that in mind, you have to make sure that you understand that this is still a tinker's kind of playground. But in terms of stability and stuff like that, I can make the argument that I have not had any issues with Home Assistant unless I mess something up. And they've gone so far as to make it somewhat crash proof, meaning that if you mess up a YAML configuration file or you do something weird, in most cases, Home Assistant will still start in a safe mode, right? And then you can roll it back, or you can go into the file and edit what you just messed up and put it back. So I'm comfortable with it running all of the stuff that I run with it. I let it tell me about my alarm systems, my security stuff. I'm comfortable with that because it's a stable platform from a stability standpoint. I'm not going to get into the whole thing about door locks and security things and all that other stuff. That's its own thing. I'm comfortable with that myself. I open myself to my comfortable level of risk in anything that I do. And so far, I haven't seen any reason not to be comfortable with it. So, hey, smart home makers, how you doing? What do I think about Home Assistant? You're gonna have to watch the last 15 minutes of my video. I am actually not running Home Assistant 1.0 beta right now because I'm going to wait for the conference. I want to see what else they announce about it. So I'm not there yet, but when it rolls out, I'm probably going to do a video on that. Hey, smart home makers, and I should call you by your name, but I forget what it is. Are you running the beta version of 1.0 right now? You can comment that in the comments here. So anyway, that's a long blah 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 about just understanding, Home Assistant, what its purpose is. It takes a little bit of effort to get things put together. That's why I like making the videos, because I go out and I try it and I break it and I make it work, and then finally I figure it out, and then hopefully my videos help you all do some of these things. Yeah, and that's a good question. Miklos, is anybody running the beta? I am not. I went to a beta channel a few releases ago for something that I wanted early. And when I talk about stability, I'm talking about I'm running, for the most part, the stable releases. Now, if you're running beta, I don't have a lot of experience running beta just because I don't want to mess with it. Now, and I'll tell you why. In my house, there are certain aspects that people living here have become used to, mostly me. But, my kids and my family and stuff, they want to tell the speaker bot to do something and they want it to work. Whenever they come home and they expect the alarm system to be disarmed based on the factors that I've set up, that should work. I do have a Raspberry Pi 4, and the Raspberry Pi 4, I'm going to try a bunch of stuff. I bought it to play around with as a playground, so that would be potentially something I would run beta on. What I can't do is run beta on the Raspberry Pi 4 with my Z-Wave devices because they're all tied to my other system, and I don't want to mess that up. Somebody asked me today, even, what do I think about the difference between Open Z-Wave, beta, the native or integration that's built into Home Assistant, and then Z-Wave to MQTT. And it's always just worked. I haven't had issues with anything that I've installed in my Z-Wave network. The hardest part was getting the door locks to pair initially because they're secure. They run the secure Z-Wave communication protocol, but even that works, and it's just worked ever since. When I switched from Z-Wave, native Z-Wave to Open Z-Wave, short of spending some time renaming everything, I didn't have any issues with it at all, and I still don't. Knock on fake wood here. All right, so smart home makers, no, I'm not running the beta yet. Today's busy buying gifts. Yep. We're in that mode too. It's holiday time too, so just a note that I'm trying to do these live streams on a regular basis, but as we come up to the holiday season, it may get a little wonky. That's why it's not at the same time every day. I'm experimenting with different times as well to see who all's available. Same here. If beta screws anything up, my girlfriend will kill me. Yep. I think there's a lot of Smart Home Maker said this in his video yesterday. The smart home test, or the partner pass test. Those are the things where I'm very fortunate that I get away with some of the stuff that they've become accustomed to me being a little bit crazy with all the technology and everything. I'm a technology guy. I've been a technology guy for my entire life. If you ever watched the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick way back, that was my first kind of introduction to computers when I was a kid. I had a Commodore 64 that I spent hours and hours and hours typing in the little codes from the book so I can run a game. I'm a ham radio operator, so I have electronics background through ham radio. So I just play with this stuff. And nobody else in my immediate family does. And so there's a little bit of that partner family acceptance of this. And so I don't want to make it hard for them. I try to be very discreet about most of the things I do. So, all right. So today we wanted to talk about, I was going to say that, Miklos, wife acceptance factor. That's definitely the thing. Most of my automations are driven by my wife and what she allows. Yeah, so one of the things that I am able to do, or what I do, is I run my light switches in the wall. They have the little rocker switches, the little GE switches. And let me see if I can do this without killing everything. I will pull this out of the way first. So I do run those GE in-wall switches. And I actually just ordered another type of switch, a Zeus or Zoo switch. It's a much cheaper version, and I'm going to see how that works out. I'm pulling up here the switch that I use, if I can find it. Switch. I'm looking for that particular wall switch because I know you're going to ask me which switch I buy here. And let's go with this, and let's go here. If my stream starts chopping out because I'm doing a bunch of extra stuff on my computer, I will end it, or end the playing around part. All right, so this here is, give me a moment, we'll get it over here. All right, this is the switch that I use most of the time, or for most of my in-wall switches. And it allows you to use the light switch as a light switch and then also control it with the Z-Wave. So I know there are some solutions that people have out there that change the way normal stuff works and that would not pass the acceptance factor in my house. So this is what I've installed. And I installed this, Raspberry physical switches with Tasmota. That's an area I haven't played with yet. Um, and when you do that, you're talking about there's a controller that sits behind the main switch or something, but you always have to have the switch on. Is that how that works? I think that's what I understand with that. Let me see if I can find that other thing I ordered. I ordered it from a different company. I don't know what. I can't spell it. Yeah, it's ZOOZ. So let me see if that's right. Bring this back over here. Yeah, so this is not the item I bought, but this company, I think it's this company, is what I bought was a thing that I'm going to monitor my. Yeah, this is it. I've seen a lot of discussion about these. I'm going to try these. So I have not the dimmer switch, but I ordered this on-off switch, which looks to me like the GE switches, but it costs about half of what a GE switch is. So I'm going to try one of these and see how that works out. I also bought, if it's on here, all products. Let's just see if it's in here. I also bought a one of those little, maybe it's not Zeus. There'll be a video on it, but it's essentially it allows me to monitor power. Power. My garage power goes out all the time. I have a GFCI, and I don't know if that's a universal term, but GFCI switch that powers all of my outdoor stuff. It's all tied to one GFCI outlet, so if it gets wet or whatever, it doesn't shock you. It shuts the switch has a breaker in the switch itself, and that keeps tripping. Especially now this time of year, I have a bunch of lights and stuff outside for the holidays, and all that stuff runs off that one. I mean, there's multiple outlets around the house, but because of the way that the builder wired it, it all runs back to a single point of failure. So I have a freezer in my garage, and I want to monitor the power in the garage when it goes out. And so I ordered a thing to do that. And so we'll make a video on that. So Tasmota, so you change the firmware. So I buy Tuya-based light switches and change the firmware. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Miklos asks Tasmota. So not to we're all friends on the Home Assistant world. So Dr. Z's has a lot of stuff that he does this Tasmota. I bought an ESP device, which is what I'm going to use to monitor. That's what it is. So an ESP device, and I think ESPHome. So yeah, you flash it with this. That might be something else to play with. I'll play with that too. But there's a lot of videos out there. Dr. Z's is like the kind of the king of Tasmota and ESP devices and whatnot. But no sense and no reason I can't just kind of play around with one myself here. All right. So let's talk about Node-RED. Raise your hands if you're using Node-RED. And of course, I would never see it, but that was my humor. I just want to walk through a few. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, Miklos. Using Shelly 1 or Shelly switches behind your original physical switches. Do you have to leave the power on to the actual switch all the time? So in other words, you have to leave the light switch on. If somebody comes along, Katie Steele raises his hand. Awesome. If you flip the switch off, does it turn the power off to your your Shelly switches? Then you can no longer control it. Look, we got a lot of folks using Node-RED. Fantastic. Because I always, that would be my concern, is if someone comes along and turns off the switch, then I lose control of the light because I have to go find the switch and turn it back on. That would be a drawback for me, or a deal breaker. That's why I use those GE switches. We have the flat panel or the rocker type switches or whatever anyway. And so again, it functions just like a switch. If they go turn it on, Home Assistant tells me it's on and it knows it's on. So Oh, so you don't have to. I need to research that. I'm sounding dumb with the whole Shelly stuff and the Tasmota stuff and all that. So I'm going to stop talking about that right now because I don't know anything about it. But I do need to research that. That's going to be on my video idea list. All right, let's talk about Node-RED because I want to just kind of walk you through some of my flows. Make sure you ask your questions in the chat um, so I can make sure I'm talking about stuff that you really all want to hear about. I'm just going to show, first of all, some of the stuff that I do with this. It's very customizable. Excellent. And again, for those that think that Home Assistant is plug and play, I'm just going to throw this out there. I would say 90% of us that play with Home Assistant do it because it's fun. And tinkering is part of that fun. I will be a lifelong tinkerer. So I will continue to play with this. That's why sysads have home labs. They don't go to work and play with their servers and then come home most of the time. In fact, I used to ask that as an interview question. Do you play with stuff at home? Because that shows your real interest in it. So very customizable with the Tasmota stuff, the Shelly stuff. That's what I like to do. That's why this is fun for me. Plug and play, and yeah, it's a hobby. Plug and play is definitely boring to me. All right, so I'm going to just go through some of these flows. These are called flows, each tab. I think these are called paths. I'm going to call them paths today, but these are flows. So I'm going to take you through some of this stuff. Zigbee. I do not have any Zigbee devices. But tell me what your issues are, and we'll see if we can talk through that. So I have a thing that turns when I was going to the office every day, which I'm not currently. I would have this. I would have my thermostats go from eco mode on the Nest products to regular mode at 3 p.m. in the afternoon because that was enough time for the house to either cool or heat for people to get home. And we'll do detail on this in a minute. I'm just going to kind of go through these and give you an idea what you can do with it. Light actions. I do a lot of stuff with lights. So sunset to sunrise using the big timer node allows me to turn things on and off based on the sun. So I never have to adjust it. And you can see that in 7 hours and 12 minutes from now, the days are much shorter, obviously in the winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's off for 12 hours, or it'll come back on in 7 hours and 12 minutes because it's going to be sunset at that point. And in this time of year, what I like to do is I have holiday lights outside. So I have a outdoor GE plug that I use, and I turn the lights on and off at sunset, or on at sunset, and then at 11:59 p.m. local time, I turn the holiday lights off, so basically midnight, and I turn on just the outside lighting again for security, or just to ward off the porch pirates and all those people. And then of course I turn off the back porch lights earlier than that because it's a gate, fenced in stuff, and I don't need to have them on. And then inside the house, if we forget to turn off some of the inside lights, we shut those off at midnight. That's also a good indicator to me that it's time to go to bed. If those lights shut off and I'm still awake, I better go to bed. So Rasby says, the main issue I have about Node-RED is Alexa Media Player. And I'm pausing because I said the word. The ladies media player, but the flow seems to delay initiation. I don't have that necessarily. So I'll get to that here in a second. So alarm actions, I do a lot of stuff with the alarm. I get notifications mostly. If the alarm gets triggered, I turn all the lights on. Every light in the house comes on, and then I set my blue iris to an alarm profile, and the alarm profile captures and emails me images every time it picks motion up. So if somebody steals my internal blue iris server that has all the video on it, I've already got email copies of who did it because this trips that BI alarm thing. And then if I'm on vacation, well, every morning I have the alarm disarm automatically when we're here. If I'm on vacation, I set a input text to a certain value, and that input text actually will prevent it from disarming the alarm when we're not here. So if we're not going to be home, I'll just set it that way. And it does that for also this here. It checks my vacation status. I don't want my Nest stuff going out of eco mode if I'm not going to be home. So I use that vacation status. All right, so door actions. I do a lot of stuff with the doors. If you unlock the door with a certain status, if it's between sunset and 1 a.m., all the lights in the house come on so you don't walk into a dark house. And then I get a lot of notifications. I get notifications through Pushover. I'm using a service called Pushover. Interesting with the Zigbee bulbs. We'll get back to that, Brian, on the Zigbee bulbs. And thanks for the video compliments. I wonder sometimes, and comment this. I spend a good, this last video I did, the grid card video. I went out and I got a bunch of music and I put kind of a music underlay or music bed underneath my talking. And for some of the videos I watch, I would prefer not to hear music, and other videos I do. So what do y'all think? And just like a random poll, an informal poll. Do you like video in the background or video? Yeah, you like video. Do you like music in the background, or do you not like video or music in the background? Let me know about that in the comments, because it takes a lot of time to go back and add that, especially in a 38-minute video. I had to find a ton of songs to fill that void. And sometimes when you're talking through stuff like this, it's nice when you pause to have a little bit of background noise, like the music. I haven't figured that out on the live stream yet. I need to figure out, number one, can I do that without copyright problems? And two, how do I keep it playing without copyright problems? And number three, what service do I dump that into? So let me talk through a couple more of these things as ideas. So motion actions, I made a video on logging motion in Home Assistant or in Grafana, and I changed the values of each motion sensor to a discrete value. So 1, 1.5, 2, and then of course 0.5. And that way, when you're looking at them on the graph, they plot in different levels of the graph. Whenever there's motion in the study, I turn the study light on for 1 hour. Between sunrise and sunset, the light goes off after this 1 hour. And then of course I track the motion for that as well. These things here, these are all videos. I made videos on a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I've used bin sound before for music. YouTube has a whole ton of music, and it was louder this time. When I played it back after it was already published, I thought, oh geez, that's really loud. So I think Stream Beats. Oh really? Stream Beats. I'll try Stream Beats as well. I know I just signed up for TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy is kind of like a creator's kind of helper thing, and they give you some free downloads. Oh look, I messed up my my zoom on my camera. Well, that's embarrassing. So now you're getting to see the real room behind here. Let me fix that, because I don't like that. I don't like that at all. One of the problems with the way the cameras work is it doesn't remember the profiles. And so every time you plug the camera in, it messes it up and puts it in the wrong place. So I guess my zoom didn't work. All right. We're getting closer and closer. All right. Sorry about that ugly background on the room. That was terrible. All right. So that was a squirrel moment. Got distracted. So these things right here, I log the amount of time, and this is more important early in a year when we had a lot of home time and we should have been doing schoolwork due to, having to stay home and schools were closed and all the stuff that happened. So I tracked how much time the Roku was playing each kind of a video stream. So you have the YouTube or Plex or, Sling, whatever the app was that was running, it would plot that on my graph on Grafana. Monitors, I monitor if my weather station stops updating, it tells me about it. I was using this for power outages. If my driveway camera or my garage camera stops working, it tells me that I need to go check and make sure that the power's on in there. But I'm going to use that new stuff here in a little bit when it comes in. Flood sensor, obviously I use a Shelly flood sensor. sitting under the sink, and we had some sink leakage, and so I bought one of these little things. I made a video on that too. I'm not promoting in my videos, but if you're interested in more in depth of some of this, how I have actually installed these things in Home Assistant, watch those videos. My smoke thing. This is a mess. I have a Z-Wave smoke detector that I am experimenting with. It's one of those Z-Wave combos from from First Alert. It's sitting over here on the table. That's why I'm looking over there. And that I'm using to determine what status it's in. And then it alerts me because I have those Nest Protects. And when we had the Works with Nest thing, I was trying to get away from the Nest ecosystem. The Nest API still doesn't have Protects in it, so I don't know when or if that's coming. So my Protects are still not. In fact, they're not even part of the Google Home app. They don't show up in the Google Home app, so they're just completely off on their own. You still have to have the Nest app in order to get any kind of notification from those. So I was looking for an alternative with these Open Z-Wave or Z-Wave combo smoke detectors. It's been fine. I mean, I'm not going to test it with a real fire to know if it really works, which is the sad part. I need to figure out a way to test it other than pushing the test button to make sure it all goes through. And I talk about that in the video as well. All right. These are just ideas, right? I do stuff with the weather. If I get one of these types of alerts, I send myself a pushover alert. Miscellaneous stuff is playground stuff. So I can go on and on about all the different things. My NFC tags, we talked about NFC tags. That was a great, fun video to make. I love the NFC tags. Man, I love those things. I have a package of these things. I can't even see myself here. I have a package of these NFC tags I bought off of YouTube or off of Amazon, and I got 25 of them, and I've got one in the truck. I've got one down by my bed. I just hover my phone over it, and it sets the alarms. Typically, is what I'm doing now, but there could be a lot more stuff you could do with it. All right, so questions. The Zigbee stuff. Let me go back to that. So you're saying your Zigbee, they're integrated, blah, 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 blah. The main issue I have with the Node-RED is, okay, that's Alexa Media. So Zigbee, when you turn them off for, say, overnight, they turn them on, they turn on and off. So you're saying Brian, is that happens only in Node-RED? Have you tried that just in calling a service, turn on service through Home Assistant directly? So you can go to developer tools. I don't know if that's a Node-RED thing. I don't know why Node-RED would be doing that. I would think it would be more along the lines of something in either the Zigbee stuff itself. And if anyone else plays with Zigbee, feel free to comment. But you can go into your services and you can do call service or turn on. I guess it would be switch turn on. Yeah, you could do switch turn on, and you would just specify your Zigbee entity. When you switch it, or when you do it, when you choose one that's correct, you can call the service. So switch play on, and you just call that service, and it should turn the light on. Try that. If it's still doing that, if you haven't already tried that, then it's possible that if it's still doing that, there's something either wrong with the Zigbee stuff itself, maybe whatever Zigbee hub you're using, or well, I mean, I don't really know. It would be a lot of other folks playing with Zigbee that would have an answer potentially for that. Yeah, so just find out if that's it. So Alexa, oops. You know, she must know I'm doing a video because she's not responding to me every time I say the word. So if we go back to the door actions, I use door actions and I make it say things. And this is kind of like answer a couple questions. One, do I use the notify service? I actually tried that. Maybe here. One of these I was playing around with the notify service. I think I just did it directly in Home Assistant. Notify service is just like anything else. So let me go back to the door actions I do. So here's one example that I do, and I'll take you through this. So my garage door, when it's opened or closed, I do a lot of different things. And I think, Brian, I don't know what the question was referencing to. How do I do that? Remind me which thing we're talking about there. It's a garage door. So I'm going to take you through each one of the nodes. So I just named it garage door, and then the entity ID is my cover garage door. And OZW, when I renamed all my OpenZWave stuff, when I switched to OpenZWave, I just put that on the end. So your entity is whatever you call it. So this node is a state node. All of the Home Assistant nodes, if you have the Home Assistant Node-RED integration, typically are at the very top here. If you don't find it, you can always, filter and find it that way. But you also get every other node that you have. All these blue ones are noted are Home Assistant. So I listen for a state. And so when the state changes, and you can set all these settings down here. These are all new, by the way. There's a whole bunch of things you can ignore that weren't available before. So you can ignore it if it doesn't exist or if it's unknown, unavailable. And then you can do an output on connect. If you click on output on connect and you save it, it's going to check the status of your door or whatever this entity is, this state is, when you actually reboot, when Node-RED connects, when you deploy it. That's, for me, the garage door, I don't want that. And the reason why I don't want that is because if I am working on Home Assistant between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 at night, and I restart Home Assistant or I restart Node-RED or whatever, it's going to do a bunch of announcements because it can say the door's closed and then it will announce it. So for that reason, I don't do that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, replying to Miklos. All right. So then I go to a switch node, and on a switch node, I go into it and I look at the message payload, which is default, and then I determine whether or not it's open or closed. And you add these, you can add a bunch of these different things. You can look for a whole bunch of different things here. One important thing to note is if you're looking for string values, make sure you have string selected. If you're looking for numeric values, make sure you have that selected in here as well. And I think, yeah, that's what you want to do. So I look for open and closed, and output 1 is open, output 2 is closed. So here you see output 1 open, output 2 is closed. And so if the garage door opens, it's going to take this path right here. And now what it's going to do, it's going to look at my latitude and longitude, and whatever. don't whatever. And it's going to look at the start time between 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. And I just named it that. If that is true, which is the top, so it's within, so that's what they call it, it's going to continue down this path here. If it's not, if it's outside that range, we're not doing anything in this case. But you can make it do something else. So once you do that, you get to this point. I have two things I'm doing. One is the she who shall not, what does Dr. Z say? She who shall remain nameless. My Echo device will announce it. In fact, I'm doing everywhere on this. I'm doing blank media everywhere because I have 4 or 5 of these around the house. And so it announces on every one of those using the everywhere service. And so I then get a notice. Now, I don't have a delay issue when I do this. There may be 1 or 2 seconds, but if I'm announcing that a door is opened or anything like that, I don't need it to be like spot on immediate. I don't need immediate feedback. 1 or 2 seconds is fine. In addition to that, and I just made tomorrow morning, this video will show up. It's the other device. This is the Google device that I have that I was playing with. And I have one of those. So it's just going to this one, they call it that. And then it also announces it. So I did that, number one, because I have 2 of them sitting here on my desk. One, I want to see what the difference in delay was. And whenever the door is open or closed and I'm sitting here, the announcements are almost right on top of each other. So Let me make sure I'm catching some of these questions. We have appreciate now the participation today. What it has done though is it's made you all have you all have more questions today, which is awesome. I just need to make sure I don't miss these. Um, so big timer. So someone asked me about big timer, whether I liked big timer or something. Let me find that here. Big timer or light scheduler? Light scheduler. Never heard of that. But here's the thing. Big timer is it's like the Swiss Army knife of stuff. Light timer, light scheduler, and I don't have that, but here's a lesson we're going to learn today. If you don't have a node, you can manage your palette. You can find this thing. So I'm going to look for it. Light timer, light scheduler. See if it shows up in my list. Maybe it's 2 words. Yeah, you'll have to, Miklos, you have to tell me where that is. Is that a Node-RED node, or is that something else? It might be. I'm thinking maybe that's an integration or something. If you don't have a node that you think you should have, you can find it in here. And what you would do, I would typically like find the Node-RED contributing things. Oh, here it is. I'm looking at it. Duh. Light scheduler. So I don't have that. So I'm going to install it. And of course, read the disclaimer. I've never had an issue, knock on wood, with installing these things. All right, so it's added it to the palette. Now if I go over here to the left, I should find it. I just want to see what this is. Oh yeah. So let's just drag it over here and see what options it has. Oh, well, right away it has prettiness. I don't even know how to do this. So what do? Just click on stuff? Oh, that's snappy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that'll be fun to play with. So do which one's better? No idea. But you know, if you like pretty things, this might be fun. I guess on this one, and this makes it super easy to turn things on and off at different times. I'm guessing turn things on and off at different times, visually seeing what they're going to do. And then I guess down here, so this looks like actually an MQTT thing. Is this only MQTT, Miklos? Because if that's the case, it may not work with some of the stuff I'm doing, but still going to play with that. That looks like fun. So I don't have an answer for you, but I will play around with it and see. Love to see some videos on Blue Iris. Oh, so Blue Iris, love Blue Iris, love it, love it, love it. It is my tool of choice. I mean, you can't beat, what is it, $59 US or whatever it is per year for, I'm assuming, unlimited. I have 5 cameras. I mean, but I'm sure you can put more. Compare that to something like Ubiquity or Unify Protect or whatever they call their stuff, that allows you to have 1 or 2 cameras, then you got to pay a licensing fee after that. Or the Synology NAS has 1 or 2 cameras, then you got to pay after that. And then it's so configurable, just super configurable. But yeah, I need to make a video on Blue Iris, but I need to make a video on Blue Iris where I'm not sharing my entire video stream live. I need to work on that. Just curious how many others use Blue Iris, but that is can't say enough about Blue Iris. Have I used the notification service? I talked about that. If you want to use notification service, instead of, let's say, the door example here, I can add a new node called call service, which is this right here. And I can actually, instead of using Google or the other one, I just use notify as a domain. The service would be notify dot, or just notify, and then the entity ID. Maybe I'm wrong here. Notify. Maybe that's wrong. I know that domain must be something else. Notify. And then service would be notify. And maybe it says mobile app. I'm not sure if that's what that would be. Let me just, I mean, that's my phone. And then I don't know what you would say here. It's probably JSON still, right? So you would say message, test message, and let's just see what that does. You can click these three dots and look at your, oh yeah, see it's wrong. You can look at your formatting and make sure it's correct. All right, so I'm gonna say done on this. I don't know if it's gonna work. It does work. It does work natively in Home Assistant. I played around with that the other day. Somebody asked me that on comments. So you can use an inject node to test things in Node-RED. And I'm just gonna connect these two together, wire them together, they call it. Deploy it, and deploy is always important when you make changes. Now, if here's my phone. If I end up, you can't see that, here's my phone. If I end up pushing this and it works, I'll be surprised. Okay, so it said it notified my mobile app, but it did not. Okay, so let's try another quick experiment here. Let's change this to, oh wait, it was just delayed. Yeah, okay. So there it is, that top line. You may or may not see it. You can't see that. It doesn't focus. Anyway, that top line says test message. It's really blurry, but that is it. So that actually works in Node-RED. So you don't need an entity. You just call this the mobile app service. So then you could take this now and attach this to the garage door open or closed paths here, and then it would notify that as well. You could get rid of these other you could have it notify your Echo things, your Google things via TTS, and your apps. Now I also use this service called pushover, and for pushover I have to create a function that sends a payload over to Node-RED, or over to pushover. So this message payload looks like this. And so it says the message actually is all of this, and it returns that message back over to the next node, which is then the pushover node. Of course, video on the pushover node. All right, so I'm getting behind on my questions here. So mobile app, yes, it does work in Node-RED. It does also work natively. You can go to call service under developer tools and call notify.notify and play around with that as well. You just have to make sure you format the messages correctly in kind of a JSON format. Let's see here. Talked about that. Uh-oh. Plugs about my videos are good, and it's my stream. You bet it's my stream. I'm going to plug whatever I want. Blue Iris is awesome. All right. So what are you using to run your Zig? Okay, that's all that. I want to make sure I get through the questions here, because I want to make sure y'all are getting good quality content out of this. All right, so when do you use quotes when entering those values in the switch node? All right, let me look at the switch node over here. I could, that would be an experimentation. I would say if you have spaces, I don't know, I'm just making this up, open right now. If for whatever reason the service or state node returns some string with more than one word, you might want to use quotes. Honestly, I think I could probably use quotes with a single word and it wouldn't make any difference. Yeah, you can always do an inject. So if I wanted to test that the door was open, or test the door open, I could use an inject node, and instead of sending a timestamp, see where the message payload is timestamp, and I don't need a topic. You can leave topic there if you do an MQTT, but I can change this to a string, and I can say open. So, and then I'm done. If I push this after deploying, of course, if I push this, it's going to go through this whole open flow. and do all the things that I have in this flow. So Node-RED makes it easy to test because you can just create an inject node with the value you're sending over in whatever these evaluation nodes are. So you're like your switch node, and it would do all that stuff. So if something isn't working in Node-RED, number one, there's that, and number two, you also have the ability to debug. So there's a debug node that you can use, and I do this all the time. Let me find something that's a little less noisy over here. Not that, because that'll alarm the alarm system. Find something that isn't going to be distracting to everybody. All right, so here's one I'll do. So I have, because I'm a geek like this stuff. If I'm sitting up here in the morning sometimes and I'm working, I will sometimes I'll hear the fan or whatever come on. We have this system in our house that brings in fresh air every 15 minutes, every hour. It's called April Air, and so sometimes I wonder if the air conditioner or heater's on or if that thing's running. So the nerd that I am, I went ahead and created this flow here, or this path. If the AC comes on, and this is using the Nest integration to get the status of the AC stuff. If it turns on cool or heat, and again, this is another example of a switch node, cooling, heating, or off. It will actually, if it's cooling, come up here, it'll set a text value in the HVAC status, and that's used for my Grafana dashboard, so I can see whenever stuff is cooling or heating or whatever. I'm gonna try to show this to y'all without killing it. While it's loading up, you can use Light Scheduler for anything as a schedule. Oh yeah, cool. Alexa integration through Nabu Casa. I am indeed doing that. Here's the reason why. Number one, I want to support Nabu Casa because I think they're doing something good to allow us to access our systems remotely. Number two, with Ingress, I can access anything in Home Assistant that allows the Ingress setting, which is going to be all this stuff on the side. Most of it on the side here will go through Nabu Casa without having to open a bunch of ports. Now, probably you could do this if you forwarded to just a single port like 8123 from outside. The other reason is when I was at my office and I wanted to check on something, most of our stuff is locked down for security and whatnot. The standard 443 and port 80 and things like that are not locked down. So using Nabu Casa, I can still access my Home Assistant stuff if I need to while on the work network. So there's some benefits there. It's not for everybody, but I enjoy supporting it, and I think it works well for me. So I was going to show you what here. Let's see if I can remember what thing it's under. Maybe demo. So when I talked about the media stuff I was doing in Node-RED, this is what it does. It basically creates an output that tells me that I'm watching that. What I'm looking at now is when I set over here in Node-RED this value in this text value box, Node-RED or Grafana now plots how long my heating and cooling was running in those particular instances. So if I look in the last 7 days, you can see all these areas where the heater ran. It's cooler now. So there's no cooling on here. It's just heat. Got a video on this too. Check out all my videos. A lot of this fun stuff I do, I just make a quick video about it. So what was I doing with this? I was talking about, good golly, squirrel. We're going to show you, debugging. So if I want to check the output of, let's say, the switch node, because it's not getting past that switch node, I can enable debugging, and I will also do an inject on this one so I can force it to do something for demonstration purposes. Drag this over here, and then we will attach that to this switch node, and I will make this, we'll say it's on the cool node at the top. I will set a string of cool. the word cool, that will come out as the message payload from that inject node. So from here, it will go to this switch node as the word cool, and it should follow this path. So deploy it now. Before I do that, I want to come over here to this. If you don't see this side panel, you can click on this and click on View Sidebar. Make sure that's there first. So View Sidebar. And then you can click on the debug, the little bug looking thing here, and then click on it. It should output a message over there. And it didn't do anything. So that tells me that this switch didn't get what it needed. Oh, you know why? And this is a good test. Nothing came out of this switch from the debug node because I'm sending it the word cool, and it's looking for the word cooling. So if I click on, if I change this to cooling instead of cool, so today we're learning debugging. Click on cooling. Now you can see
upstairs air conditioning turned on.
I don't know if you heard her say that, but Google just told me it was on. It followed this path, and it gave me an output of cooling. In some of my videos, I believe I talk about how to grab some of the values in like embedded JSON blocks, and you use debug to do that. So there's a Node-RED playlist, there's a Grafana playlist. Look through those, and it talks about some of the more involved things that you do here. YouTube demo on my sidebar. I don't know where you see that. I hope you're seeing the chat and not something else. YouTube demo. I'm probably putting something up I shouldn't. Anyway. So that is what a debug does, and it's very, very useful in doing things when you're building out Node-RED flows and Node-RED stuff. So let's see, what are the questions we have? You can use light schedule. So another blue iris user. It says no, not MQTT only for light schedule. I'm going to have to play around with light scheduler. Oh, Home Assistant sidebar, this thing right here. Okay, so if you come down to your profile, and I'm going to have to hunt for this, I'm sure. Wait for it. You can change the order and hide. Okay, that's not it. Always hide the sidebar. So if I uncheck that, now my sidebar becomes a bunch of icons. And you can click this here, and you can, I guess you can't, I guess it stays that way. So now if I go to my dashboard, oh, I see what y'all are asking. Sorry, a little dense there. Demo is, you're not asking how to hide the sidebar, you're asking what it's called. This is just a dashboard I made for the demo. Yeah, this grid card stuff is fun. In fact, if you watch that video, now let me go back and hide this sidebar. It's just in my way. Give me a moment, give me a moment. We're gonna go probably another 15 minutes or so here, depending on questions and whatnot. I have a football game in about 25 minutes. And let me tell you, if in the US, if you're college football, that's the oblong one, not the round one for those not in the US. If you're a football fan, this year, if your team plays a game, they're lucky enough to not have to cancel a game due to all this crap that's going on, then you make it a point to try to watch it. So I'm going to today. My team's playing today because they were canceled for 2 weeks in the last month, and I want to watch at least one of the games before the season's over. Let me turn this back on because I don't like that there. If you watch my grid video, some of you are doing that. And thanks, Brian. Yeah, I try to be informative in those videos. Some of them, I think at the end, man, that was a bunch of baloney. It wasn't worth much, but somebody finds use in those things, hopefully. So I try to inform first, and then that's 99.9% of it. And then 0.1 is just entertainment for whatever reason. There you go, Brian. Giga Maggie's. They'll be playing at 11 o'clock and Central Time. So I'm going to go hit that game. All right, so YouTube demo. What was I saying here? YouTube demo. I actually, well, okay, that's a lie. That's not what I wanted. I actually switched now to this as my default dashboard, which is I built a YouTube demo off of the original version of this because I built it and then I took a screenshot and just put it together as I was going. So this right here, I've added in, I've changed these. So the rain rate, some more grid cards. I changed the names of these so they were shorter, added another row of temperatures, added a couple more entities here. And really, it's pretty much the same. I did under the media cards. If you watch the video, you'll notice that I used the mini media cards because they're configurable. And maybe the regular ones are too, but these are the ones I'm going to use because they're more compact. They fit better. So anyway, I did some modifications on these. So it's a little bit different than what the video ended up with. The video gives you the basics for pretty much most of the cards. I don't think there's any. And somebody asked me, I don't know if CD-ROM is on here, but CD-ROM asked me about getting the custom button cards to work. These are actually custom button cards. And they allow you to configure a whole bunch of things like the color and the status when different things occur. So I tried those work, and then the rest of these button cards are just the stock button cards. I got off my Node-RED stuff here. So anyway, that's Node-RED. I didn't take you through like a whole bunch of different things. I wanted to give you some ideas on what you can do with it. Maybe show you a couple of flows. Yeah, Brian, I never did UI editing before. I always did everything in YAML, and I didn't ever convert to UI editing because I was afraid it just wouldn't work. Well, obviously, I went through and basically built the same dashboard I built in YAML, and I think using the UI, but I think what made the difference was the grid cards because I have a lot of vertical and horizontal stacks within my YAML, and now all I have to do is create those vertical or those grid cards and kind of nest them together, and that gives me what I'm looking for. Okay, why is this not loading? There we go. All right, so are there any specific questions? Rasby, I'm going to watch Texas A&M today, and they're playing, oh golly, I don't know who they're playing. It doesn't even matter because they're playing something, and I'm going to watch it. All right, so they're playing, whoops, I already had it up here. They are going to be playing Auburn. So Texas A&M this season is ranked 5th in college football, and Auburn is not ranked. So we'll see how that game goes. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, we have so many players that have to quarantine or not be there that you may not have your full lineup. And I haven't looked at the news lately to see who's going to be there or not. Thanks, Brian, for stopping by. Oh, excellent. Thank you for the Patreon, Brian. Super excellent. Yeah, if y'all like the stuff, at some point I'd love to just sit here and make videos and play with Home Assistant and play with technology and just make a living doing that. Nowhere near that, but it could happen. It happens for people. There are things that YouTube doesn't allow you to do until you hit a certain thresholds, and so I'm below the thresholds for a lot of that. But things like Patreon or Ko-fi, those are things that are incentives. Number one, that helps the wife acceptance factor because if she sees a dollar coming in on something I'm doing, it makes her feel better about me spending my time away from family stuff doing this kind of thing. So thanks, Brian. Really appreciate that on Patreon. All right. So anything else y'all want to talk about before we go? Let me give it about another 5 minutes and see if there's anything else going on. Let me check my Discord and see if anyone's talking to me there. No, just people joining, which is awesome. Let's see what else we got going on here. So just to wrap up, I guess if you're interested in the Home Assistant virtual conference, it's on December 13th. So sign up. You can sign up by going directly to Home Assistant's webpage, or you can go into integrations or configuration. I showed you that earlier. And then I think it costs $1 US because they're streaming on a specific type of platform, and I think that covers the cost of the platform. There's no money in the actual conference itself. It just covers the cost of providing the streaming platform and the ability to use whatever tools they use for the conference. And I learned that by watching their live stream. That's all. The only reason I know that. All right, so I think that's going to wrap it. We talked about Node Red Flows 1.0, just random chat. If you like if you like these live streams or you have suggestions for live stream stuff, let me know. I enjoy doing them. The incentive to continue is that it's helpful for y'all and that y'all get some value and at least something fun to do on a Saturday or whatever day I get around to doing it. Um, if you're watching and you're not a subscriber, I would really love for you to subscribe. We talked on the last live stream kind of about algorithms and how, you know, channels get promoted in algorithms. And I don't want to get into super detail on that other than the fact that it's awesome when you're creating videos to have your stuff show up for people to see, and YouTube puts it there for based on algorithms. Popular, it's a popularity contest. Let's just flat out say that. So the more likes, the more comments, subscribers, you know, increases your popularity. So you get more exposure and you get more folks to see the work that you're doing, and you got to do it a lot for this work. So. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. I really appreciate y'all joining today. I'm going to try to figure out some like music stuff. I don't know how that works in live stream to make sure that maybe we get a little background music to play so we can have a little just something in the background rather than silence. Have a great weekend. And again, ask me questions in Discord if you have any. Tell your friends if you want to that like the stuff to subscribe. And all right, we will see you on the next video and our live